Welcome to Vault 212. My name is Malia, and I will be your guide for this tour. Please don't be alarmed by the decontamination equipment. It's standard practice for visitors to pass through the particle inversion neutralizers. Don't worry, it's harmless and will render radioactive particles unknown. Please remember to keep safety straps on at all times and not to reach out from the tour car, as some passages are narrow. Today we will see what the living conditions were like for the 3 generations of survivors that lived in this vault, and also hear about the events that took place during the construction phase. We are currently descending into the vault. There are a small number of residents who still live in the vault for research and maintenance. The others left the vault after the great opening 12 years ago. I used to live here when I was a little girl, although I was too young to remember. My mother lives in the resort, and my father has left this world now, so he is with the great Tikichiki. It makes me very happy to share my vault heritage with visitors to the vault, especially as not everyone has been as fortunate as we have. Upon exiting the elevator, we will be entering the main atrium. It's my favorite part of the vault. It's the central hub for all areas of the vault. Residents would congregate to discuss recent research or just play games and listen to music. You may be able to smell the food prepared on the lower level in the cafeteria. You might also have noticed a distinct change in the air quality too. Going from the outside to the purified air inside the vault can feel strange if you aren't used to it. Our first call will be to the Radiation Ecology Lab. It's here that Dr. Parker studies the effects of radiation on the local fauna. We will be careful not to disturb his work today. His research focuses on genetic mutagenesis, how elevated radiation above ground causes deformities in the plant life, and the side effects those mutations lead to. He also researches trophic cascade, which is how the disruption of some species leads to knock-on effects throughout the ecosystem, such as wildlife consuming the mutated plants.
Good morning. Okay, now let's execute spectroscopy at 5.2 milliwatts.
Warning!
I said 5.2 milliwatts. Put it down.
Situation normal.
Now we have to start all over again.
One of the most interesting outcomes from Dr. Parker's research was the identification of the nutritious radyam. Greatly oversized and literally glowing, he confirmed the bioluminescent yam was perfectly safe to eat and was also the direct cause for the local rad scorpion's distinctive glow. As a side point, the rad scorpions are mostly nocturnal, and it's pretty easy to see them approaching from a long way away. We planted many radyams in a location far away to help keep them away from the resort.
Oh, no.
Seriously? Again?
We will next be heading down to the lower level of the atrium. This is the only vault discovered on the island. The facility is built on top of lava tubes. These are naturally occurring, stable conduits through which lava can and does flow for hundreds of years. Indeed, some tubes now empty of lava that have been dated to be thousands of years old. The discovery of lava tubes had been kept secret before the Great War. No one in the vault knew anything about them, except for the people who built the vault, of course. As we will hear later, the outer door was intended to be sealed, preventing anyone seeking refuge from entering. Evacuees from the local resort made their way to the vault and were able to enter. We are now passing through the lower main atrium. When you entered the vault's outermost door, you would have passed through multiple layers of shielding. This provides radiation protection, even when the outer door is open.
Cleanup in progress. Please go about your regular business.
It was almost a week before the mechanism could be repaired by residents equipped with radiation suits working around the clock.
It's nice to see a friendly new face around here. It's been a long time.
All the food here is cooked by hand. However, the food situation for the first generation that lived here was very different than it is today.
Welcome back. How may I assist you today?
Nothing today. Thank you, Mabel. The residents had to survive on limited rations for many years in the beginning to preserve their food supplies, while researchers raced to create and scale up the in-vault hydroponics facilities. It took years, but once ready, they could feed everyone generously.
Thank you for helping.
Please stand clear and go about your normal work routine. Your friendly Robco factory helper will have this cleaned up in a moment.
You may not be one of us, but you're the next best thing.
We will next pass through one of the several living quarters. There are two distinct complexes in Vault 212. We are in the main complex now, and it is kept separate by secret passages. We call the other section the Shadow Complex. The plans devised for each complex didn't work out as the founders expected. We will be able to hear more about this during our tour.
I'm here to answer any and all questions you may have, within specified parameters. And if you'd like, I can provide a tour of our museum.
Not today, thank you, Jeffrey.
Of course, of course. Don't let me keep you.
The vault was meant to preserve the American way of life, but this noble proposition disguised the real purpose of the vault, and the Shadow Complex would have remained hidden from all the inhabitants here. Behind the hidden doors was an overlord, manipulating and testing the people who lived here. The Shadow Complex is unused, largely left as it was found. In the Shadow Chamber, you will notice wiring and terminals, these connected to observation points within the main vault. They plan to watch all areas in the main vault. Everything, the cafeteria, the overseer's office, individual quarters. No moment truly intimate or private. We are now approaching one of the secret passageways, disguised as an innocent wall. When I think about the amount of observation equipment in the Shadow Chamber, it sends shivers down my spine. All connections have been hard cut so that the equipment can never be used again. We are heading into the central comms facility, where communications between vaults would have been possible. As it stands, no lines remain intact now, but this room is still stocked with holotape recordings of conversations between executives, contractors, and personnel, all relating to the planning of this vault. Numerous empty holotapes exist, clearly ready for the resident observations. We are not sure why covert recordings between executives exist here. Perhaps blackmail or another cynical purpose, but I'm afraid we will never know now. I will now play for you a selection of holotapes, beginning with an extract from a conversation between a vault-tec executive, Mrs. Betty Reed, and the director of vault-tec Hawaiian operations, Mr. Charles David. This recording was made in 2077, while the vault was midway through construction.
I'm thrilled to talk about the results from this experiment. Betty, Dr. Taylor's work on anxiety manipulation has shown great promise for societal development.
Fascinating, Charlie.
Indeed, this experiment will help us structure and leverage anxiety in group dynamics to maximize productivity and obedience in our new world. The experiment will begin by inducing emotional baseline in all subjects to counteract the initial shock of nuclear displacement.
How will you go about measuring productivity increases to report back to us?
I've instructed Overseer Andrews to implement a strict daily routine and introduce psychotropics into the ventilation system. This will allow us to start the experiment within a week. The first phase involves inducing a collective trauma response by simulating low-level tremors and initiating the hypersonic white noise throughout the vault, which will continue throughout the experiment.
Oh, sorry, Charlie.
No, please, go ahead, Betty.
Hypersonic white noise? What effect will that have?
Dr. Taylor's research demonstrates maintaining an elevated baseline anxiety level, allowing us to gradually increase it without causing psychological defects, as we have seen in previous experiments. We have scheduled increasing tremors and heat fluctuations. With each incident, followed by Andrews rallying the subjects to develop solutions. The vault's equipment has been specially designed for the subjects to adapt for geological research purposes, all rigged to yield falsified readings. It's imperative that the subjects believe that their efforts are indeed solving real issues.
So they solve fabricated problems, improving collaboration and sharing in collective success along the way.
Exactly. This process enhances their ability to adapt to anxiety, boosting productivity and cohesion. After 6 months, we'll let them believe they've stabilized the tremors and gradually remove the white noise. We expect societal cohesion to deteriorate, allowing us to measure the exact model of deterioration. Once it reaches minimal cohesion, we'll restart the experiment.
The vault was designed from the very beginning as a way to experiment on people. The rationale is repeated throughout all the recordings we find. They wanted to perfect human civilization by perfecting conditions for people to do their best. But it's very difficult to get past how self-defeating this logic would turn out to be. The next holotape is a recording of a communique between Charles David again, this time speaking with the Senior Junior Vice President of vault-tec Bud Askin.
Your choice of wording on the life support pod test results is interesting. I don't need to remind you, there are a lot of eyes on this project. Over 300 stasis pods are allocated to the top brass who are going to ask me about this report. Look, I understand you might be more candid with me than in the official report. Let's level here. Off the record.
Off the record?
Help me help you. I need to know if you have any concerns about the stasis pods.
The report is accurate. All pods passed the tests. But there's a development I wanted to keep confidential until I know more.
Go on.
Bob overheard something from an Atom Guard tech. Are you sure this is off record?
Absolutely. This stays between us.
Fine. Bob heard the tech on a comlink, quietly saying he replaced a cracked thermal conduit.
Sure, they are required to replace broken parts.
You're missing the point. These conduits are ceramo-titanium composite. They cannot crack.
Could it be a mistake?
It's more than a mistake. How would he have disposed of a conduit without anyone noticing? What would he replace it with? More importantly, how can a conduit crack, especially since they haven't been even started tests yet? I had Bob check every conduit, and it all seems fine.
Could the tech have meant he solved the issue metaphorically?
I trust Bob. He wouldn't mishear. There's no evidence of a problem, but the remark troubles me.
Trust your gut on this. Let's keep this between us for now. Do you need additional resources?
That won't be necessary. I asked Bob to activate listening equipment to monitor Atom Guard's progress discreetly. I want to ensure there are no surprises.
Good work, Charlie. Keep me updated.
Their plan to leverage the energy from lava tubes required very specialized and sophisticated equipment. This recording is the earliest first indication we found that the contractor, Atom Guard, had been cheating vault-tec on the installation. Pumping molten lava requires withstanding temperatures of up to 1,000 degrees Celsius. That's 10 times hotter than boiling point of water. High-grade materials are needed, so a custom ceramic titanium composite material developed by vault-tec was installed. But Atom Guard instead used cast iron conduits, coated with a thin layer of the composite instead. This would definitely have been financially motivated, but as this power generation system would only be needed for a fully inhabited vault, Atom Guard probably thought it would never actually be put to use. The control room is ahead. The next recording is the last ever created. It was still in the machine when this area was discovered. The recording is of the startup sequence just before the nuclear detonation above, with Robert Miller, the facility controller, Victoria and John Brown, the systems coordinator and maintenance engineer, respectively.
I have received confirmation that detonation will be in T-minus 5 minutes.
Very good. Gerald, has the last of the Alpha crew been accounted for?
One left. He's unloading a phase decoupler from the boat.
No! Just get him inside. We are closing the doors now.
But he's...
Get him inside now, by force if you have to.
Yes, sir.
Prime the ignition sequence. We need to close these doors before the blast hits. I don't want to deal with any unwanted arrivals from the resort after the bomb goes off.
Yes, sir. Preheaters activated. Thermal regulation systems are online and stable. Turbines primed.
Over to you, John.
Aye, sir. Proceeding with calibration.
Gerald, are you both inside?
Yes, sir. All accounted for.
Stand by for door release.
Flow valve 1 unlocked. Thermal regulators engaged. Monitoring temperature rise in conduit channels. Turbine contact confirmed.
Confirmed. Turbines remain stable.
Okay, now slowly bring up the flow.
Increasing flow value 1 to 50% capacity.
Report.
Pressure spike detected in flow value 2. And 3.
Emergency shut off!
No, wait! We won't be able to get back online if you shut it off now. Just reduce the flow.
Thermal regulators 2, 4, 6, and 7 all offline.
All flow regulators offline. I'm engaging emergency shutdown. It's not responding.
Turbines are being pushed past limits.
How? What is happening?
I don't know. Shutdown isn't responding.
Attention! Calling all personnel. Lava flow failure in section 4 Alpha. Seal that breach now.
Control! We are in pod storage. It's everywhere.
Pod storage?
Oh my god.
When they opened the first flow valve, lava entered the conduits for the first time. They immediately ruptured. Lava spread out and melted the valve supports and remaining conduits. The pressure differential caused an intake surge, which caused more lava to come into contact with the cooling network, resulting in steam released into the complex. This situation created a siphon effect that rapidly drew in more lava before crystallization around the valves could cease to flow. Pod storage chamber, or section 4 as heard in the recording, filled with superheated steam and lava. What we saw just now was a reenactment of the event that took place over 200 years ago. Don't worry, this facility is safe, as the lava tubes are sealed now after those catastrophic events. The life support systems on the left would have provided the necessary conditions that the pods required to stay operational for hundreds of years. On our left is the pod storage chamber. The lava entered the facility through pipes that ruptured before the lava solidified. This is the pod storage chamber. Over 500 people were frozen in these pods. They would have been the inhabitants of the New World. Various vault-tec personnel and families were amongst them. The residents inside main vault were considered expendable. I will activate the holographic simulator momentarily. I grew up hearing about these recordings and plans. It wasn't until I was an adult that I really understood the depth of what had occurred. It's taken many years of reflection. I feel anger, understandably. Angry at the cruelty, angry how easily they dismissed the value of people's lives. It's an ironic twist of fate that those who conspired to sacrifice so many innocent lives would end up with such a poignant demise of their own doing, a sinister deception rewarded with another sinister deception. However, I am grateful because despite hardship, I am here. When so many didn't have that opportunity, we have made a good life for ourselves. My most core principle is respect for others. That's why I'm happy to share this terrible history with you, so we can all learn from the mistakes of the past. We will be returning to the main complex now. These hidden doors were revealed from the beginning due to the system failure, also preventing the vault's outermost door opening. If it wasn't for that, none of my ancestors would have entered the vault. There were no survivors from the Shadow Complex. The experiments never began. The The tremors never started, the ventilation never poisoned, the plans laid bare for all to see. This corridor is adjacent to the main vault complex. Another secret door lies just ahead, which emerges as the power generators. These are the power generators. They have been upgraded over time, as some power requirements were designed to be provided by the primary generator, now behind solid rock. A fascinating geothermal bioreactor system that uses a specially engineered strain of thermophilic, which means heat-loving, algae. Geothermal energy catalyzes the algae's metabolic process, outputting a great deal of energy, enough to satisfy the needs of the vault. This is one of the hydroponics facilities. We grow all the food that we eat, fruits, legumes, fungi, leaves, tubers, like potatoes. We have even formulated a new protein to complement this highly nutritious and varied diet. The next room, as we near the conclusion of the tour, is the loading station, where we can transport supplies to our storage facilities. Storage spans a surprisingly large distance, hence the need for the train. As a side point, the chamber has excellent acoustics. We sometimes come here to enjoy listening to Dr. Wilson play the piano in there. It looks like... Oh, how exciting! Just a second. Richard, play something for us.
Sure thing, Malia.
Oh, that was wonderful. I just love hearing him play. Ladies and gentlemen, we have concluded the vault tour. We are returning to the upper level. I will be available to answer any questions you may have. On behalf of Vault 212, I would like to thank you for visiting us today, and we hope you enjoyed your visit. Please keep your arms down while the safety bar is raised up, and watch your step carefully as you exit the tour car. On behalf of all of us here in Vault 212, thank you.